Senator Quarterman, you just saved the day. We're ready to start. Are you ready to start? Okay, welcome everyone. We are going to start this afternoon with Morgan State. Kelly Norton is our budget analyst today, and Dr. Wilson, happy to see you here. Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay, all right, thank you. We're going to start on page 4 with Exhibit 1, showing the total undergraduate enrollment and category changes from fall 2019 to 2024. Total undergraduate enrollment increased by 727 students from fall 2023 to 2024. As is illustrated in the exhibit, first-time, full-time students experienced a second consecutive increase, growing 4.2% in fall 2024. On page 5, Exhibit 2 documents the changes in undergraduate enrollments. As shown in the exhibit, the number of applications grew in fiscal 2024, totaling over 23,366. The yield rate of 12.4%, which is the number of students who actually enrolled from that total, was the second lowest rate recorded from fiscal 2015 through 2024. The acceptance rate of 82%, or the green line, was also the fourth highest rate recorded over this period. Exhibit 3 on page 6 provides a breakdown of enrollment trends by location. Continuing to reverse the trend of declining enrollment, in-state enrollment grew by 349 students in 2024. The international undergraduate student population has fallen from the 2017 high mark of 780 students to 166 in 2024, but has experienced 2 consecutive years of increases. The out-of-state student population continues to increase, growing by 373 students in 2024. Out-of-state students now make up 41% of undergraduate enrollment at the university. Moving to student performance, Exhibit 4 on page 7 provides the second-year retention rates for first-time, full-time students. The second-year retention rate had fallen in 2017 and 2018, but rebounded in 2019, totaling 73.5%. Since that cohort, there has been a decline of second-year retention rates. The second-year retention rate dropped to 65.6% for the 2022 cohort. This decline is not surprising due to these cohorts overlapping with the pandemic. Exhibit 5 on page 8 provides the 4- and 6-year graduation rates for first-time, full-time students. As shown in the exhibit, the 4-year graduation rate has decreased for the second consecutive cohort, falling to 17.8% for the 2019 cohort. The 6-year graduation rate decreased to 41.7% for the 2017 cohort. The president should comment on the declining graduation rates and how the institution is supporting students to reverse this current trend. Exhibit 6 on page 9 provides the 8-year graduation rate by Pell and non-Pell recipient status. Both non-Pell and Pell recipient full-time transfer students had the highest graduation rates with 71% and 57% respectively. Pell first-time, full-time students had the lowest graduation rates at 43%. Exhibit 7 on page 10 shows the estimated cost of attendance versus the average net price for full-time in-state students by income level between fiscal 2021 through 2023. This exhibit shows that the average cost of attendance over these years was $25,130. However, the actual net price for students when aid was awarded averaged $15,218. In fiscal 2023, the average net price was $10,205, less than the cost of attendance. What this exhibit also shows is that the cost of attendance will vary depending on income level. For example, in fiscal 2023, it cost a student $10,666 with a family income of under $30,000, but $16,768 for a student with a family income of over $110,000. Exhibit 8 on page 11 shows the amount of institutional aid awarded and total dollar amount of awards provided by category. The amount of institutional aid awarded has increased $19.5 million between fiscal 2019 to fiscal 2024. Need-based aid totaled $26.6 million in fiscal 2024. On page 12, we have Exhibit 9. The U.S. Department of Education reports the median debt for graduates by field of study in an effort to give students a better picture of outcomes at the program level. For civil engineering majors, the median debt was just under $21,000. and just over $31,000 for social work majors. Electrical engineering majors had the highest median earnings at just over $104,000. Moving to the budget, the fiscal 2025 budget funding included $3 million for the Center of Urban and Coastal Climate Science Research, which was reduced to $2 million through the BPW cost containment measures. The president should provide an update on the use of the funds received for the center after the reduction. The fiscal 2025 budget included $500,000 for the Center for Equitable Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning Systems. The president should provide an update on the use of the funds. Exhibit 10 on page 14 provides the budget changes for unrestricted funds by program from fiscal 2024 to 2025. The largest dollar change was in research, which increased by $8.1 million, and spending on instruction also increased, growing by $4.5 million. The proposed fiscal 2026 budget found in Exhibit 11 on page 15 includes $11 million in salary enhancements and $27.6 million in HBCU settlement funds. In total, Morgan's total state fund allocation decreases by $7.7 million, or 4%, relative to the adjusted fiscal 2025 working appropriation when excluding the fiscal 2025 salary increases. The president should comment on how Morgan will address the decrease in state support for fiscal 2026. Exhibit 12 on page 16 provides a breakdown of unrestricted revenues by source and total unrestricted funds. In fiscal 2026, state funds account for 42% of unrestricted funds, and Morgan anticipates total unrestricted funds to grow substantially, increasing to $401.3 million in the 2026 allowance. The personnel data for the university is found on page 17. Morgan has noted that the contractual full-time equivalents have not declined to 333 for fiscal 2025 and remains at the fiscal 2024 level of 727. And DBM concurs that the budget books contains errors for the fiscal 2025 and 2026 personnel data. As of December 31st, 2024, the university had 108 positions vacant above the expected turnover. The president should detail the progress being made to fill the vacant positions. Moving to issues, which begins on page 18. The first covers the Maryland College of Osteopathic Medicine at Morgan, also known as MDCOM. Morgan agreed to allow a private entity, Salute Education, to operate the private for-profit medical school on its campus. MHEC approved MDCOM to operate in Maryland, and its first students were expected in late 2024. Last session, Morgan had explored state funding and indicated that the deal with Salute had fallen through. It seems as though Salute has secured the necessary funding to move forward and expecting to submit an application for candidacy with the Commission on Osteopathic College Accreditation in the near future. The president should should provide an update on the status of MDCOM and the expected timeline for its first class. The second issue begins on the bottom of page 18 and covers outstanding mandated reports. Each year, the legislature mandates reports and studies to be completed by state agencies or other governmental entities. Anything submitted to or received by the Maryland General Assembly or DLS is deemed a mandated report. Morgan has 4 outstanding mandated reports. 1, the sources of amounts of payments used to support auxiliary facilities and academic facilities report. 2, report on credit for prior learning. 3, a summary of the transfers among programs for fiscal year 2024. And fiscal 2024 position accountability report. The institution also has 2 pieces of community narrative related to student cohort data in East North Avenue development that have not been officially submitted. The president should comment on when these reports will be submitted and how the institution will ensure the reports are submitted in a timely fashion. The DLS operating budget recommended actions are found on pages 20 through 21. The first is to restrict funds pending the outstanding East North Avenue development report, and the second is to restrict funds pending a letter from the Office of Legislative Audit stating the institution has corrected repeat findings. And with that, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you. Kelly, you do great work.
Thank you.
Okay, before we get started here, we're looking at time crunches this afternoon. We are going to try and finish with Morgan by 1:30 so that we can do St. Mary's and finish up by 2. That work for everybody? Nice to see you.
It's good to see you as well, Madam Chair.
Go right ahead. Okay,
Okay.
we're on.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. First of all, we want to thank our analyst for the exceptional job that she has done once again. Also, I have 2 individuals with me that I want to introduce for the record. To my right is Winston A. Wilkerson, who is a member of the Morgan State University Board of Regents. And to my left, David Lachina, who is our Executive Vice President. And let me just turn to Regent Winston Wilkerson. I think he might want to make a few comments.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. As the President stated, my name is Winston Wilkinson, a member of the board. I am a 1970 graduate of Morgan, so I've been able to see Morgan's growth and the many things that Morgan has done under President Wilson's leadership. I graduated Prince George's County Schools back in the 50s and 60s when they only had one black school. So when I went to Morgan, I didn't have the background actually being in college, but going to Morgan, they had programs to help me to get through school, to finish Morgan, and to eventually go into law school. So I'm just here to support the president and support the things that Morgan has done and will do under President Wilson's leadership.
That's wonderful. And imagine the number of people that have been affected that way. It says a lot for the school.
And let me just say as well that we really have a great working relationship at Morgan between the administration and the Board of Regents, and also great support from our faculty, from our alumni, and obviously from the legislature. And so with that in mind, let me start by thanking Governor Moore for the unwavering support that has come Morgan's way, and of course, thanking this committee and thanking the Senate and everyone that has been involved in supporting this transformation at Morgan for the last 15 years. We have produced extensive testimony, and I want to be cognizant of the time, Madam Chair. And so let me just provide a couple of highlights here, and then we get straight to addressing the comments. First of all, Morgan is in an immense period of transformation and growth, unlike any experience in the 158-year history of the institution. That growth is manifested in several areas. First, of course, we are at maximum capacity in terms of student enrollment. We are near 11,000 students coming from 46 states and 70 countries, but still about 56% of our students hail from the state of Maryland, and every county in the state is represented on our campus. We believe very,
Can I ask you a question? How many students live on campus?
Roughly about 3,800 or so on campus.
Okay.
But then we have leased facilities where our total bed count under Morgan's umbrella is about 5,400.
That's great. That's great.
Yes. And so we, of course, always have as our top priority ensuring student success and well-being. And with that in mind, we have seen now 14 straight years of retention above 70%. And I'll make the comment now, the analysts in the report indicated that our retention rate was 68%. That is really because we use student ID numbers at Morgan in order to calculate our percentage rate, whereas MHEC only uses Social Security numbers. And so our retention rate this year was 71.3% because of that, and that is in our comments as well. But our students understand at Morgan what we mean when we say to them that we expect you to dance on the world stage with the best of them anytime, any place, anywhere, and they are winning all over the place. They're entering all of these national competitions. They are coming away number 1, number 2 in everything involving AI, machine learning, to we just instituted a student investment club at Morgan where they are dealing with real money. We have a donor that provided the money where we want our students now to be trained in alt finance and to get out there and get these jobs where they can graduate and start out with $250,000 a year on Wall Street and all over the country. And so we're very, very pleased, with how our students have heeded that call, and they are going forward, if you will, with great preparation to enable them to be extraordinarily competitive. Well, they have a really good group of faculty members, if you will, as role models and exemplars, because our faculty as well is well accomplished. So many of them now have been inducted into national societies. They are national fellows. As a matter of fact, last year, the world ranking came out, and we have, I think it was 10 professors in the sciences at Morgan that are amongst the top 2% of scientists in the world. And so also, the faculty is taking advantage of the opportunity at Morgan while we grow in our research ascendancy. Speaking of research, when I arrived at Morgan, we were bringing in about $29 million a year in research grants. Last year, that topped $88 million. And as I sit here right now, we're at $92 million for this fiscal year, well on course to pass $100 million. And no one would have thought that that was possible a decade ago. But I think the takeaway here as well is that with that, the research ascendancy, we also have cracked the top 100 universities in the country with regard to patents. And so last year, with only a $29 million research expenditure, the Morgan faculty were able to produce 13 patents. And in comparison, and that ranked us amongst the top 100 universities in the country. By comparison, we have another university that had $500 million in research expenditures and only produced 16 patents. And so we're very efficient in the way in which we use research grants, and we give the state and the nation a great return in terms of patents and spinoffs. Likewise, we are transforming the campus in terms of our facilities. Madam Chair, you asked how many students stay on campus. Well, that number of 3,800 or so is because the university has had to build 2 new residential towers on campus, one housing 670 students, another 610 students. We have totally renovated 2 of our legacy residential halls, all new rooms, inside of a historic facade. And then when the students move out of another kind of Army-style residential facility in May, we are raising that, and we're building another 600-bed tower as well. So we're paying a lot of attention to how we at Morgan are paying attention to what the students are saying to us they need in order to enhance their college experience. And so let me just conclude there, if you will, and go to the comments that you have asked us to offer. The first was on page 7. The president should comment on the declining graduation rates and how the institution is supporting the students. I've already commented on the fact that with the retention rate, it's still above 70%, 14th straight year, and that was really because of how we actually track the numbers. And Kelly, we can get that information to you and show that to you if you're in need of that. But the slight decrease in graduation rates is basically not a surprise to us. This is now what we are seeing post-COVID, and our students came back to us with just as many challenges as you see across the space of higher ed, and particularly amongst who knows, 50% or so of the students that we serve. Those students had been so negatively impacted by COVID. Parents had lost jobs. They were sequestered in very isolated spaces. And so it was kind of difficult for them then to make this adjustment back in an environment where it was face-to-face learning and interaction at a high level. And so we're seeing that now play itself out with regard to this cohort, but we've made some additional investments in psychological services, and we are convinced that we're going to get right back to where we were at around 48% graduation rate in the next couple of years.
Can I add a comment to that? I think it'll be interesting with all the people losing their jobs now across the state, the federal jobs. It will be interesting to see how that affects you also. I mean, I'm hoping it's not as bad as it looks like it will be, but there's that consideration.
That's what we also are in the process right now of ideating and basically scenario planning because we know that it might disproportionately impact the parents of many of the students we serve. And so we'll be looking at that, and based on what we find, we'll certainly put that in front of the committee. Also, you've asked me to provide an update on the use of the funds received.
Wait 1 second. Senator Benson,
Say to you, Morgan
use
State,
your microphone, please.
I'm sorry, Morgan State has an impeccable reputation. I mean, everywhere you go, you hear nothing but positive things about Morgan State. I'm kind of surprised that the enrollment is your enrollment continuing to decline, or do you see, what are you all doing to attract those students back to Morgan State? But you have a wonderful reputation.
Yeah, so we have the, so maybe I own the fact that perhaps I was not clear. We do not have an enrollment problem at Morgan. We are one of the fastest growing universities.
You don't have an enrollment at this point?
None at all. We are at capacity. It's quite the contrary, where we are now pausing the enrollment growth at Morgan until our infrastructure can catch up with the demand. And so last year we got 24,000 applications for 2,400 freshman slots at Morgan, and that was the fourth straight year of what we've seen an increase in our freshman class. So we had a historic undergraduate enrollment of 9,000 plus students, and then we had historic master's and doctoral enrollment over 1,700, of which close to 1,100 are PhD students. And so this is a remarkable period in Morgan's history. And we're getting applications from everywhere. You're absolutely right that the brand is at an all-time high. And then we've undergone curricular realignment. So we have several new degree high-demand programs in mechatronics engineering, which is one of our fastest growing programs, in cloud computing, another, because we pay attention to the to the labor market, and we were trying to align some of our academic degree programs with the skills that the employers were telling us that they needed. And so the analysts indicated that with our electrical engineering graduates, for example, they have a median annual income of $104,000, and we're looking at these other programs as well as performing economically in the same way. So students are seeking those opportunities out.
I'm going to ask that we've got a few questions that we still need to have answered.
Okay.
So we could move this ahead, please.
And so with regard to comment 2, I can just say that those funds are being encumbered. Numerous positions are now out for hire, and so we expect that the funds provided for the Climate Science Research Center will be exhausted, as we also have to look for additional space to house the center. On comment 3, page 13, yes, we were awarded $500,000 for our Center for Equitable AI Machine Learning. That money as well has been invested quite well in offering tuition assistance to students, providing opportunities for students to go to conferences all over the country, and so purchasing equipment, et cetera. And so that appropriation also has been well invested. You said the president should comment on how Morgan will address the decrease in state support for 2026. I can just sum that up in a couple of sentences. We certainly appreciate the investments that the state is continuing to make in us. The proposed 5% reduction in our annual state appropriation will present a tremendous challenge to us. And all I can say to you is that we have a very, very comprehensive process in place to look at how we will actually come up with the $12 million out of our operating budget. And we're working our way through that right now, but it could actually result in some elimination of positions and possibly some eliminations of programs as well. In terms of the discrepancy, how institution will work with DVM, we are working with DVM in order to basically have this not to be an issue going forward. And so, Kelly, you can count on us to continue to work with you in that regard. Detail of progress being made to fill the vacant positions. David, real quickly on that.
So just briefly, we've made some progress since last year. We know the vacant positions. We've had quite a bit of growth, though, through the centers and through some other programs that we have. And so when we break it down, we have, over 130 positions that are currently being recruited. The remainder really is cycle-based, hiring faculty in a particular cycle takes a little bit longer, and many skilled positions, frankly, are very difficult to hire, particularly given the resources that we have and the ability to pay. So we're working very diligently on that, and that will be part of our analysis when we go through and look at the budget cuts to really look at the vacancy list and determine the criticality and need for those positions.
With regard to the proposed College of Osteopathic Medicine in collaboration with a for-profit entity, I can report to you that the university and the board have made a decision, which was mutual, that we are looking to not continue in a for-profit mode, and basically are still committed to exploring a College of Osteopathic Medicine, but in a different kind of framework, a nonprofit entity, because moving down this path would only have added to the total amount of student loan debt that these students would have had to incur in order to get through medical school, which could have been approaching $500,000. And so Morgan is not in the for-profit business, and we'll look at other models. And so, therefore, the recommended actions, there were two. With regard to withholding $250,000 from our annual appropriation, while we came up with a proposed development of East North Avenue in the city of Baltimore. What we're saying here is that we would respectfully disagree with this recommendation. Morgan was able to acquire a year and a half ago 59 acres of property about a mile or so from our campus, the Lake Clifton property, and we're in the process of bringing on board a consultant who will work with us, work with the community, and we're going to basically redevelop in terms of a plan, not just the 59 acres of Lake Clifton, but we're going to extend that in Baltimore from like North Avenue all the way past our School of Engineering, which would be about 3 years. And so, about 3 miles. And so we are saying, look, we are going to wrap this plan into the overall plan, and are asking that this recommendation actually not go forward, because it could get in the way of our ability and to hire the services needed to do this comprehensive a redevelopment plan. And then the other was recommended that since Morgan has had repeat findings in our audit that you hold $250,000, we have basically addressed all of the audit findings, and from the perspective of Morgan, they're all closed, including the last outstanding one in procurement. And so we also are disagreeing with withholding the $250,000. And so, Madam Chair, those are our comments.
Okay, thank you. The only other thing I see outstanding here, the outstanding mandated reports.
Yes, and so we do take responsibility for a couple of those. Basically, we had this system within the institution where the reports actually the reports were actually done, and then they somehow make their way into my outbox where I personally send them. And so I had a couple of the email addresses in there that were not correct, and therefore they did not go forward. But we did find a couple of instances where we had not, and we are submitting those in a timely fashion now.
They will be. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Does that do it? Okay, are there any comments or questions? All right, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Next, we have St. Mary's College of Maryland, Dr. Tawanda Jordan, president, for the last visit to our table as president. Not a happy thing. I think we're still going to hang on to you. Yes, you are. Okay, Kelly, take it away.
Thank you. We're going to start on page 4 with Exhibit 1. Shows the undergraduate enrollment from fall 2019 to 2024. Total undergraduate enrollment increased by 28 students from fall 2023 to 2024. As shown in the exhibit, the number of continuing students and transfer students has fluctuated since fall 2020. The number of first-time students decreased by 39 in fall 2024 compared to 2023 after 2 years of increases. Exhibit 2 on page 5 documents the changes in undergraduate applications. As illustrated in the exhibit, the number of applications grew in fiscal 2024, totaling 3,400. The yield rate, which is the number of students who actually enrolled from that total, has been under 20% since fiscal 2020. And in fiscal 2024, the acceptance rate, or the green line, was 69%. Turning to Exhibit 3 on page 6, it shows St. Mary's out-of-state enrollment, which has seen a turnaround of declining numbers since 2020. There was a 7.4% increase of out-of-state students in 2024 compared to 2023. Moving to student performance, Exhibit 4 on page 7 provides the college's second and third year retention rates. The second year retention rate decreased to 81.4% for the 2022 cohort, and the third year rate decreased to 71.8% for the same cohort when compared to the previous year's cohort. The president should comment on efforts to improve the 4-year graduation rates. Are shown on Exhibit 4 on page 8, Exhibit 5 on page 8. As shown in Exhibit, the 4-year graduation rate decreased to 52.5% for the 2019 cohort compared to 2018, while the 6-year graduation rate has fallen to 73.6% compared to the previous cohort. Exhibit 6 on page 9 provides the 8-year graduation rate by Pell and non-Pell status. For first-time, full-time students, Pell students graduated at higher rates than their non-Pell counterparts. However, among full-time transfer students, non-Pell recipients had higher graduation rates. Moving to affordability and access, Exhibit 7 on page 10 shows the estimated cost of attendance versus the average net price for full-time in-state students by income level between fiscal 2021 through 2023. This exhibit shows that the average cost of attendance over these years was $31,455. However, the actual net price for students when aid was awarded averaged $20,535. In fiscal 2023, the average net price was $11,116 less than the cost of attendance. This exhibit also shows that the cost of attendance will vary depending on income level. For instance, in fiscal 2023, it cost a student $3,618 with a family income of under $30,000, but $25,256 for a student with a family income of over $110,000. Exhibit 8 on page 11 shows the amount of institutional aid awarded and number of awards provided by category. The amount of institutional aid awarded has increased from $7.3 million in fiscal 2019 to $9.9 million in fiscal 2024. St. Mary's continues to have high rates of merit-based scholarships, with that category accounting for 64.8% of all institutional awards received by students in 2024. The U.S. Department of Education reports the median debt for graduates by field of study in an effort to give students a better picture of outcomes at the program level. Exhibit 9 on page 12 illustrates that the median debt of students ranged from $19,000 for natural resource conservation majors to $22,000 for economics majors. Computer and information science majors had the highest median earnings at $95,869. Exhibit 10 on page 13 provides the budget changes for unrestricted funds by program from fiscal 2024 to 2025. However, according to St. Mary's, the data represented for fiscal 24 does not accurately capture its expenditures and revenues due to errors in closeout documents. By the time these errors were identified, it was too late to adjust the reported fiscal 2024 expenditures. The president should comment on the cause of the discrepancies and how the college will ensure accurate fiscal reporting in the future. The proposed fiscal 2026 budget found in Exhibit 11 on page 14 includes a general fund increase of $8.7 million when accounting for the contingent reduction. In total, when including fiscal 2025 salary increases, St. Mary's total state fund allocation increases by $2.2 million, or 5.7%, relative to the adjusted fiscal 2025 working appropriation. Total funds will decrease by $3.2 million, or 3.4%, relative to the fiscal 2025 adjusted budget. The BRFA of 2025 eliminates the funding formula for St. Mary's beginning in fiscal 2026. Language in the fiscal 2026 budget bill would reduce the general fund appropriation for St. Mary's by
Can you
$416,000.
repeat that last sentence, starting where you talking about the BRFA?
Sure. The BRFA of 2025 eliminates the funding formula for St. Mary's beginning in fiscal 2026. Language in the fiscal 2026 budget bill will reduce the general fund appropriation for St. Mary's by $416,847 contingent on the enactment of this provision, which results in state support of $41.3 million, of which $38.7 million are general funds. However, because there will no longer be a requirement for any set level of funding or calculation, the general fund appropriation could be greater or less than this amount in the foreseeable future. Under current law, state funding for St. Mary's is allocated through a funding formula that increases annual funding by inflation and requires the state to fund 100% of the cost of increases in health insurance costs and cost of living adjustments for state-supported positions and the possibility of a graduation bonus. Exhibit 12 on page 15 shows the decline in total enrollment that has begun to turn around with 2 consecutive years of enrollment growth. Those years of decline, coupled with the formula, has led to increased state funds per FTEs, as shown in Exhibit 13 on page 17. Between fiscal 2019 and 2024, state funds per FTEs has increased 51.9%. When looking at that same exhibit, 2 University System of Maryland institutions with a different funding mechanism than St. Mary's. Those institutions experienced an increase in state support per FTEs as well, but at a higher rate. State funds per FTE spent at College Park increased 56% over the same period. However, Salisbury University state funds per FTEs increased 106%, from $7,129 in fiscal 2019 to $14,685 in fiscal 2024. Exhibit 14 on page 18 shows the growth in state support for the same 3 institutions during the same period. St. Mary's state support increased 57.7%. Similarly, state support for College Park grew by 56.3%, but Salisbury experienced the highest percentage change in this group, increasing 66.7%. The trend data suggests that St. Mary's formula has not advantaged St. Mary's compared to peers whose funding was driven by discretionary decisions. Exhibit 15 on page 19 provides the unrestricted revenues by fund source from fiscal 2021 through 2026 allowance. In fiscal 2026, state funds increased to 49% of unrestricted funds compared to 44% in fiscal 2025. Personnel data can be found on page 20. DBM reports St. Mary's regular positions as 449 for fiscal 2025, but St. Mary's has self-reported that number as 407. The president should comment on what has led to the self-reported decrease in positions and why a turnover expectancy is not accounted for given the high level of vacancies. Moving to issues, which begins on page 21. The first issue examines the college's financial outlook. Exhibit 16 on page 21 shows the E&G, or Education and General Expenditures and Revenues. Expenditures continue to outpace revenues with the exception of fiscal 2021. In fiscal 2026, expenditures are expected to be $3.3 million more than revenues. St. Mary's has continued to have the second highest in-state tuition at the University of Maryland, Baltimore. Exhibit 17 on page 22 compares St. Mary's to other select 4-year public institutions, and St. Mary's has consistently been more expensive. In fiscal 2025, St. Mary's is expected to cost $1,980 more than UMBC, the next highest institution. The second issue begins on page 23 and covers the college's latest fiscal compliance audit. In December 2024, the Office of Legislative Audits, or OLA, released an audit of St. Mary's covering the period from August 26, 2019 through July 15, 2023. There were 3 repeat findings. Finding 2, certain aspects of the procurement of the contract with a vendor affiliated with a state university, University of Maryland Global Campus, raised questions about the propriety of the award. In addition, St. Mary's could not support changes to contract terms and did not adequately monitor the contract, resulting in cost overruns. Finding 6, St. Mary's did not use available output reports of residency changes made on its automated student account system to ensure that only authorized and supported changes were made. And finding 7, St. Mary's did not perform verifications of collections to deposit and did not always deposit collections in a timely manner and did not segregate duties as required. In addition to the 3 repeat findings, OLA identified potential ethics violations surrounding the propriety of procurements and payments to a vendor that was also a second employer of a management employee involved in the procurement process. The president should comment on what actions have been taken to address the findings of the December 2024 audit report. The president should also specifically comment on what actions have been taken regarding the audit's repeat findings and repeat recommendations. DLS operating budget recommended action is found on page 26, and that is to concur with the governor's allowance. And with that, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for Kelly? Comments? Okay, Dr. Jordan.
Good afternoon, Chair King and members of the Education, Business, and Administration Subcommittee. It is always a pleasure to meet with you, especially today regarding St. Mary's College and our FY26 operating budget. With me today are Dr. Larry King, Trustee Emeritus and former Government Relations Trustee Liaison on our board, Brandon Engel, our Director of Government Affairs, and student Kiera McMahon, a Schaefer intern. As always, thank you for your support of St. Mary's College. Before I begin, I would like to invite Dr. Leek to say a few words.
Good afternoon, Chair King and members of the subcommittee. It's a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon on behalf of St. Mary's College. I served as a trustee at the college from 2005 to 2022. While on the board, I served as the board's vice chair, the board's secretary, and member of as the board's government affairs liaison. I'm also a proud member of the class of 76 at St. Mary's College, and as you may surmise with my gray hair and service at the college, I've been in and around the college most of my adult life and enjoy the campus and our president immensely. During the 2017 session of the Maryland General Assembly, President Jordan worked very hard with you, Chairman King, and your committee and your Senate Budget Committee. We worked with nearly every one of you, Senator Bailey as well from St. Mary's, to enhance our funding formula. The funding formula has been the primary mechanism that is used by the General Assembly to fund St. Mary's College's operating budget. It's been in place since 1992, and 25 years later, in 2017, working with Dr. Jordan and the leadership of the board, as well as members of this General Assembly, including your chairman, Nancy King, to get passed House Bill 556. That bill was codified in, signed by the governor, unanimously passed by both chambers of this august body, and codified as 2017 Maryland Laws of Maryland, Chapter 420 rather. Chairman King, you and your supportive leadership and just active engagement throughout the process ensured that we got unanimous passage in both houses. Unfortunately, the governor's budget is, you heard through the testimony of our budget analyst, is on the block to be eliminated. It would be, we understand the state has a budget problem. We understand that we need to do our portion, but to gut our primary funding source mechanism would be detrimental to not only us as a college, to our students, and our ability to serve the legislatively mandated mission of being an honors college for the state. It is just unthinkable, and we urge you to, to work with us, and we will work with you to kind of get this taken care of during this session. We are immensely proud as a board and as a group of alum and of the work that our president has done in her tremendous tenure leadership of our campus. We are fundamentally changed because of her presence as our president and all the things that she has been able to do during her tenure. But we also recognize the substantial support that we've gotten from the Maryland General Assembly. And we want to thank you in closing for all the generous support that you've given us over the years and for your recognition of St. Mary's College as a unique institution within the higher ed community of Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's been a joy for me working over these years with Dr. Jordan. We've had the close relationship where she could pick up the phone and call me, or I could pick up the phone and call her. And we've worked very well together and have been able to do the things for St. Mary's, I think a lot because of that relationship. It has helped. We are in a really bad financial crisis with our budget. And just understand that we will keep looking at it. If there's any way to save any funding, we absolutely will. I mean, it's high on our radar screen. So just a bad situation that the country is in right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair King. Yeah.
Okay, do you have any other comments?
Oh, I got lots of comments.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
And thank you, Larry. I really appreciate your remarks.
Senator Bailey's ready to listen to you over there.
Is he really? Are you? Okay. I also want to thank Kelly and DLS for an excellent analysis of the college. More than ever, higher ed is in an interesting and complicated space, and you have done well to understand us. Each of you have been provided with an overview of the college in our written testimony, as well as specific responses to the analysts' questions. I will not read it verbatim, of course, but I will reference exhibits and highlight key issues during our presentation, and I promise to be done by 2 o'clock. Please know that we are grateful for the governor's FY26 allowance, as well as the recommendation from DLS to concur with that allowance during these challenging times for the state and our country. We understand the need to tighten the state's belt in exceptional circumstances, and we continue to be willing to do our part. I also want to thank you for your support in updating and reaffirming our formula in recent years. And as noted in the DLS analysis, the revised formula has continued to work well, closing funding disparities between St. Mary's College and other institutions of higher education in the state, and enabling us to serve students in accordance with our mission. I want to start with a brief discussion of the college's enrollment. As noted in the analysis, enrollment at the college has been a concern since before my arrival in 2014. I am pleased to tell you that we have not only stabilized our enrollment, but we have turned the corner back to growth, as shown in Exhibit 1 of our written testimony. Overall enrollment at the college has increased by 13% from fall 2020 to fall 2024. We attribute this growth to both our ability to recruit strong incoming classes of first-year and transfer students, as well as our strong retention rates. As shown in Exhibit 2, our entering class grew by more than 11% from fall 2020 to 2023. We were negatively impacted by the flawed rollout of the simplified FAFSA, as almost all institutions were. However, the fall 2025 admission cycle suggests a continued rebound. The college is also engaged in a variety of initiatives to strengthen and enhance its position in the higher education landscape, including implementation of that LEAD curriculum, development of new majors, and the launch of nationwide marketing efforts, all of which you have heard me discuss in previous years. However, to demonstrate the quality of our strategic planning and execution, I do want to note the success of our marine science and business administration programs. In just 3 short years, these majors have grown to become the college's second and third most popular majors among incoming students. Together, these initiatives have made St. Mary's College more relevant and more competitive. As shown in Exhibit 3, applications to the college have grown by 22% over the past 5 years and have more than doubled since our baseline year of 2019, from a little over 1,600 to more than 3,400 applications. Moving on to access and affordability, the college's mission to balance these principles with the provision of an excellent liberal arts college remains challenging. We continue to implement institutional efforts to identify efficiencies and control expenses, and coupled with your support, we have been successful in keeping St. Mary's College affordable for Maryland students. As shown in Exhibit 4, tuition was frozen for the 6th consecutive year beginning in fall 2024 without state relief funding. It remains less than it was 12 years ago. Turning fully to our DLS analysis, the college was asked to comment on our efforts to improve four-year graduation rates. As you all are well aware, St. Mary's College proudly maintains some of the highest retention and completion rates among its peer institutions, both in comparison to our public in-state peers as well as our private counterparts. As a retrospective analysis is intended to do, the impact of COVID on our students is accurately captured. However, I want to note for the committee's consideration that our real-time metrics have recovered to pre-pandemic levels. This includes a 5% year-over-year improvement in retention for all students to 86%, as well as a recovery in our four-year completion rate to approximately 60% as of last year. We also remain committed to constant innovation and improvement. One of our most recent initiatives, which has empowered more students to complete their education within a traditional four-year timeline, is the inclusion of a winterim session in the college's permanent academic calendar. This condensed session offers remote courses between the fall and spring semesters and enables students to either catch up or get ahead of their credit requirements for majors and minors. Since its permanent inclusion in the course catalog a few years ago, winterim has steadily reduced the percentage of students at St. Mary's who have fallen off track for timely graduation. The college has also launched the Seahawk Success Network to foster student persistence and academic excellence. This initiative provides every single student with both a designated academic and co-curricular advisor, as well as an assigned counselor within the offices of Student Success Services and Student Financial Aid. These advisors serve as a clear point of contact for institutional resources, and their direct relationship with students establish a sense of investment from the college in each student's education. Moving on to more technical matters, DLS asked for a comment on an accounting discrepancy in this year's budget books, as well as vacancy discrepancies between DBM and DLS data. I want to assure you explicitly that the accounting issues identified in the analysis are the result of classification errors between individual salaries and programmatic categories, not actual changes or misstatements of college spending. In other words, salaries that should have been attributed to instruction or public service last year were instead attributed to student services, institutional support, or plant maintenance. Once these errors were identified by the college, our Business and Finance Division worked closely with DBM to correct them. These corrected figures have been shared with DBM and DLS, and with the implementation of our new enterprise resource planning system, augmented by the presence of new and experienced staff, the classification and reconciliation process for expenses will not be a problem going forward. With regard to vacancy data, St. Mary's currently employs 449 individuals in regular positions, and 407 of these positions were filled as of December 31st, 2024. Combining the 407 filled positions with the 49 vacant positions, the discrepancy between total positions reported by DBM, which is 449, and total positions reported by St. Mary's, which is 456, is very small. This is in part due to newly proposed positions at St. Mary's that have not yet been approved or funded, as well as a slight inflation to the vacancy rate due to interim appointments. Once new positions are approved and interim appointments are made permanent, this discrepancy should be eliminated. Finally, with regard to the 2024 audit report, the college has expeditiously implemented corrective actions, including both personnel and policy actions. These include the appointment of a highly experienced interim vice president for business and finance, as well as both a new associate vice president for finance and a new procurement officer. We have also revised written agreements with identified entities, updated procedures to verify student residency changes, and implemented a new policy related to cash collections as detailed in our written testimony. These actions, as well as additional corrective actions related to redacted findings, will be completed no later than the end of FY25. With that, I know the day is long, so that concludes my comments. I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee, but would otherwise take the opportunity to thank you once again for your support of St. Mary's College. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Bailey.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We'll try to make this very brief. I want to say thank you very much for everything you've done for not only St. Mary's College, but our community. You've given your people and your workers to help the historic St. Mary's City. And I just want to say, Dr. Jordan, it's been a pleasure working with you and look forward to you remaining there as one of our constituents and somebody that can help us. I do have one question, and it does concern me about some findings in the audit. And I know that you've done a lot of work for Historic St. Mary's Commission, and we had a problem just last year with an audit from them. And I know there has been some duplicative roles that you have undertaken to help them. And I just wanted to understand if, I haven't read both of the audits, so I don't know the issues, but if you know, that overworking and working with them and helping them, if that has caused issues in that regard, I'm curious.
There have been some challenges associated with that, and I would love to speak with you at another time.
We could take it offline.
Please, and then
Yes.
we can discuss them in detail. Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments? And let me just say to you that even though you're moving on away from us, we will still continue to support St. Mary's like we have been, and whoever your new president gets to be, we look forward to working with that person and continuing the good works for St. Mary's.
Thank you, Chair King. It is
And I'm
an
sure I'll be
honor
hearing
and a
from you even
pleasure
if you-
to be in your presence all these years.
Thank
And I
you.
have no doubt St. Mary's will continue to do their part, and that will make it easy for the
Yes,
state to continue
it
to
does.
support us in the way that you have in the past.
Correct.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, that ends our hearing for this afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow at 11:30.